Okay, welcome back. Today's video is going to be about doing the valve adjustments on my 1985 Suzuki Intruder 750. So what I've done, in the book it says to remove the spark plugs so that you can turn the engine to get your top dead centers. So what I've done was I've already removed the spark plugs and the side cover on the front cylinder. I've removed the spark plug and side cover on the rear cylinder, and I've also removed the opposite side cover, which they also say to do. I don't think you need to if you've gone as far as I haven't taken the bike apart. Like, I've got everything off the bike, but I guess if it's all still intact, like, you still have to remove the tank and the seat, and you have to lift up your front carb. I recommend just taking it right out. It makes it a lot easier, but you have to lift it up to get at these covers on the back cylinder. You should be able to get the front ones without doing that, but you need to do it with the back ones. So you might as well, like I said, I think it's easier just to take it right out. So that's what I went and did. Well, I had to rebuild the carbs anyway, so that's why they were out. But I figure while they're out, I'll do the valve adjustment. So so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove this other cover here. It's just a 12mm wrench or socket, whatever you have. I found the socket worked good. On the covers for the spark plugs, though, you're going to need a wrench, because here on this side and over here on this side, the bolt is doesn't allow, the frame doesn't allow access for a socket and ratchet. So, but anyway, I'll take that cover off and then I'll go back to you. Okay, so I've gone ahead and taken that other cover off. Oh, I'll zoom out a bit. So I've got that other cover off there. Now, on my covers, and I'm sure they are on all of them, but just check anyway, just in case. Sorry, let's look at this without losing the bolts. On the cover, right about there, if it'll focus, it says FL. Okay, that is the front left cylinder. Okay, and on the other one, on my rear cylinder, it says right rear cylinder, RR. Now I'm not sure if it does on the spark plug ones, but I'm sure if it does on there. Yeah, there it is there. So there's the front right, and I'm sure the other one will be marked as well. Now, if they're not marked, I recommend marking them. Make sure they go back in the same place. They may fit on opposite sides, but just in case, you're better to make sure so you don't forget which one they go on. So, and I did the same thing with my side covers too, just to make it easier. When I took them off, I just put down, left side, right side, just so when they go back in the right place. Anyway, we've got that cover off now, so now what we're going to do is we're going to, a little sponge thing there that sits there to keep the cover from rattling, I guess. So if those come off, maybe set them aside so you don't lose them. Some people recommend replacing them. I don't think that's necessary, but we'll find out when I put it all back together if it becomes necessary or not. And if it is, then I will replace them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these covers off now. This one down in here is going to be a pain in the butt. It's underneath all my hoses and stuff. So access to the bolt right there, and I should have access to the other bolt. Yeah, right there. If I have to, I'll have to fight to get a wrench in there, but I should be able to get them no problem. The tricky part will be getting the access to the valves themselves. So I've taken one cover off already. So I'll show you really quick what they look like. When you pull the covers off, that's what you're looking at, your valves there. Okay, so these are my exhaust valves, and these will be my intake valves. Each cylinder has got two of each. So there's two exhaust here, there's two intake here. On this cylinder, there'll be two intake here, two exhaust there. So now when you pull these covers off, be sure to mark them as well. So rear cylinder, front, or exhaust. rear cylinder intake, or rear, however you want to mark them, as long as you remember which one's which. I personally am going to put rear exhaust and rear intake. You want to do that to make sure that they go back in the same place. You want them back on the exact same mark, or on the same valves that it came off of. The book will tell you the same thing as well, so make sure you do that, okay? Anyway, I'm going to get the rest of the covers off. I'm going to mark them up, and then I'll be back. Okay, so now to get at this cover, what I've done was I've removed this main fuel line. Right, this is the main fuel line here. It'll run underneath there, back up to the carb, or to the petcock, sorry. And then that goes into the fuel pump, and there's another one from the fuel pump to the other carb. But anyway, I've also removed this line, which is another fuel line. Okay, and so this end will go back through here. This end stays up here, like so. Okay, and now all I got left to worry about is this coil wire. I just moved that aside like that. I've also moved out this clutch cable, or sorry, this choke cable. It goes back in underneath this frame as well. Okay, I'm making this part of the video as a reference for myself and for you guys to, in case you guys need to go back and look at it again. Okay, so the next step after we got our two covers off up here, I'm just going to do one cylinder at a time as far as taking the covers off. So what you want to do next is a little timing cover, or timing mark cover right there. So pop this off. Okay. That was already loose. I don't know if somebody else had done that before, or if I'd done it and didn't realize I did it. But okay, and just set this aside somewhere where you're not going to lose it. I'm just going to put it right there on the jack. And then put it right back in when I'm done. Now in here is timing marks. Tells you where your top dead center and that is. You will need to know that when you get in there. Now you want to loosen this as well. Now I pre-loosened this with a wide bar. You want to get something that'll fit nicely in the slot. Yamaha makes a tool especially for that, so you don't damage it. This one's already got a little bit of a nick in it, so. But I already loosened it anyway. When I tighten it back up, I'll put it up with something wider. Now what this does, this gives you access to the nut here that you need to turn to get the engine to crank, or to get the engine to turn over so you can find your top dead center. Now this exposes the engine, so there's oil there, you might get some leak out. Same here, so make sure you don't get anything in there. And again, I'm just going to put the cap right here on the jack so it's kind of out of the way. Okay, and then you need a 17mm socket and either a pie bar or a ratchet, depending on how hard the engine is to turn. But that's why you pull the plugs out, so that you can turn the engine fairly easy. So I'm just going to grab a 17mm socket. Going to use my pry bar or my see, the book says 17mm. It's not. They lied to me. So, oh, no, I lied to myself. I grabbed the wrong socket. Okay, now I've got my 17mm. Let's see if I was right or if the battery was right. Looks like the book was right. Okay, so you want to turn the engine counterclockwise. So when you're facing it, you want to turn it to the left. Okay, so I'm going to just give this a quick turn. And it appears to be turning fairly easily. Okay, so now that we know the engine turns, I'm going to grab a little flashlight. I'm going to shine it in this hole here, hopefully, so I can see my timing marks. Okay, so there's a little arrow right here on the case itself, and then if you look in the hole, you just turn it until you see the marks that say RT, I think it's RTT or RTD, I'm not sure, I'll look it up in the book, but it's the timing marks for the top dead center. So I'm just going to spin until I see a mark, and then I'll know which one it is. Okay, so I got my mark on here says RFT, so that's front top dead center. Okay, so I want rear top dead center. Okay, so I believe I'm at rear top dead center. Now, if you're in the right spot, rear top dead center, you want to check your valves, see if there's any free play in your valves. All 4 valves should have free play if you're at top dead center on the compression stroke, which is what you're looking for. If they don't have free play, then you're top dead center, but probably at a firing stroke or an exhaust stroke. And I have free play on both, so I am top dead center in the compression stroke. If you're not sure, look at your valves when you're turning, and when they both go up, and they're both in the up position, then your mark is lined up, then you're most likely at top dead center in the compression. So on this particular bike, I looked in the book. I have the climber book. See if I get some focus here. So anyway, on this particular bike, okay, if you look right there, valve clearance, intake, and exhaust is 0.8 to 0.13 millimeters. So anywhere within there is acceptable. Okay, so what you want to do is get yourself a set of feeler gauges. Okay, I have mine here. Mine are straight ones. The bent ones are better. They come out and bend right there. I may have to bend one of mine to get it to fit in there because of the angle of things. But once you determine what your clearance is supposed to be, and you find your feeler gauges, you find those particular ones that you need. Now these feeler gauges I can actually take apart and then put them back together when I'm done with them. So I can take the feeler gauge out individually if I want. I don't want if I can help it, so I'm going to try not to. I might have to with the front cylinder just because of the air box being in the way there. But we'll find out. So anyway, so what you want to do now that you're at top dead center, on the compression stroke, you want to stick your feeler gauges in between your valve clearance underneath your rocker arm there and your valve stem. And you want to feel a slight drag as you pull it out. If you have to adjust it, then what you got to do is you have to loosen this nut right here, this outside nut, and then you got to find a wrench small enough to fit on that tip there. And once you've loosened that nut, you turn that tip either loose or tight, whatever way you need to go, and then you check and then tighten that back up, check your clearance again. Right? And then once you're good, you tighten it up completely, do your other one, and then once you're both set, then you just double check both to make sure that they didn't move. And if they're both still good, then you're done. And then you do the same thing with your exhaust. Now they say in the book to do your exhaust first. Okay? So I'm going to do my exhaust on there first, and then my intake. And then when I do the front, I'll do my exhaust and my intake. Okay, I didn't film the whole process because it's kind of a pain in the butt to get in there and to try to get the camera in there at an angle that you can see it. So I didn't bother to record the whole thing. But I will show you what I got here. Okay, so I got the covers off. Alright, so what you want to do is take your feeler gauge. I wound up having to bend my feeler gauge. I was hoping I wouldn't have to, but I did. Anyway, I don't even know if you can see it or not. The lighting is bad. The angle is bad. But right in between, down in there, you can see my feeler gauge. Right? It's in between the stem and the bottom of the adjusting nut. Okay, now that one there, when I checked it, all the other ones were good. They're all within specs. Now this one here was the loosest of all of them. Now when I checked it with the 0.8, it was a bit too loose. Now I've got the point, what do I have in a point? I'll tell you in a second, but anyway, I got it in there, and it is got a slight drag that you need when you pull it out. So what you want to do, once you get all this off and you get your feeler gauges in there, what you want to feel when you put your feeler gauge in is you want to feel a slight drag when you move it back and forth, or when you pull it out. Okay, so there's a slight drag on that, and that is the one that's in between the minimum and the maximum. So that right there is my 0.10. Okay, I am allowed between 0.8, between 0.0 8 and 0.13. I'm at 0.10, so I'm right dead smack in the middle of that. Between the three feeler gauges that I've got. So all of these checked out. So I've done this cylinder. So now what I want to do is I want to put it back together. Excuse me, put it back together so that we don't drop anything down in there or get any kind of dirt in there or whatever. I accidentally got some in there already, so I'm going to try to clean that out before I put the cover back on. This one is going to be a royal pain. I'm debating whether or not I want to go through the trouble of taking the box, the air box and stuff out. I don't need this bike fixed. I'm not on an hourly rate with this bike because it's mine. And I'm not in any hurry to get it out of the road because it is -2 outside right now. And I only ride if it's above 5 degrees. I will ride in the middle of the winter time though. Even if there's snowbanks up and down the side of the road, as long as it's above 5 degrees, I'll ride. But yeah, like I say, this is a project bike. Hopefully have it ready by spring. So taking my time, no rush. So I might just pull that off just to make it that much easier. Sure, it's extra work putting it all back together, but if I pull that box off, it's a good excuse to clean in there, right? So anyway, that's how you do your valve adjustment or your valve check. Like I say, this video is just a guide, rough guide. I'm by no means a licensed mechanic. I have been doing this stuff off and on for years, but I'm not a licensed mechanic, so don't take this video as the be all end all. I recommend getting the book, and if you're still not sure, have a professional do it, or somebody that you know knows what they're doing to do it for you. But valve adjustment is something you should do on a regular basis. At least check them to make sure they're all good. If you start hearing some rattling and ticking noises in your top end, it's probably a good chance that's what it is. Mine are fixed, so before you go scrapping the bike, check those. Or if you want to just scrap the bike, send it my way. Anyway, I will be back with the next video on how to put everything back together once I get all the parts I need for the carb. Anyway, for now, have a good one, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, so I was planning on just doing the valve check on this side, and then just going back to the next, showing you guys the next step. When I got the covers off, I got it in top dead center. I pulled the exhaust cover off and went to adjust the valves, and this is what I found. I'm not sure how well you guys can see it in there, but I don't even need to put a feeler gauge in there, because that gap, you can stick your whole finger in there. So this is what I had issues with. That valve there had a huge gap in it. Seems like an extra large gap. The valve appears to be moving, so it's not seized. I'm still not 100% sure it's coming all the way up. So I adjusted it the best I could. I'm going to have a friend of mine come over and give me a hand. I'm going to do a compression test on it, make sure that it's actually closing. And if it is closing, then we're good. But if not, then we'll have to take that apart and redo it. And I may have to pull the head off.